Hey YouTube, this is Betta Tank, and today we're going to take a look at my 10-gallon tank. Now this is my Hydra 10-gallon tank, and the coverage of it's been a little bit sporadic, but this is more or less its 2-year anniversary, so I thought maybe we'd do a video about it and talk about where it's at and some kind of interesting things that have developed with this particular one. So I set this tank up in March of 2020. Like just before I got laid off, just before I went to the hospital. A lot of stuff went on. This is kind of like the tank that sort of kicked off all the chaos of 2020. I'm pretty sure it's all its fault. The setup for this is a little bit unusual. I'll include a link at the end. I wanted to make a Betta tank for my giant Betta, and I set it up with I put some biological material, like some, I don't know, some porous material on the very bottom that normally you'd use for a filter. I can't remember the brand of that, if it was Seachem or something else, but built chunky lava rock-like items on the very bottom. And then I covered it with Amazonia, and I used some like petrified rocks and stuff, and I set up, I think I put a lot of buse in there, and Anubias, and a couple of other things. So that tank ran for quite a few months, about 6 months or so, maybe 3 or 4 months. It actually didn't go super long, and like a lot of new tanks, it had a massive amount of algae and stuff. Things didn't really start to grow in there. I didn't have any kind of magical experience with that one. It was very, very typical of the planted tank when it just becomes kind of a pain in the butt. So the other setup video for this was basically, it was a really weird video with a clone, and I'm kind of resetting this. Like I'm pulling all the algae out and cleaning it up and putting it back, but I didn't make a significant change. Some point later on in the year, I started researching father fish and finding out about deep substrate tanks, and I wanted to experiment with that a little bit, but I didn't want to start up a whole new aquarium. I kind of did it with 2 tanks. One, the first one I did was the 10-gallon Tiki Tank that's actually right over here next to me. I've been having a lot of algae problems with that, and I decided, well, maybe just put an inch or two of sand in there and see how it does. I kind of went halfway on that. I mean, I filled it up as much as I felt comfortable with the plants and stuff that are in there, because they were like just barely coming up out of the sand. And it ended up working out fine with those crypts and stuff later on, by the way. But I still didn't see a huge difference in like the amount of algae that I was having to clean and stuff like that. So what I decided to do is, and there's a lot of different factors for algae. I was just trying to see if, just based on my substrate, if I could kind of make something different, something perceivable, you know, keeping everything else the same and just change the level of substrate. And it takes a long time, because the reason that substrate works is those deep layers develop beneficial bacteria and other little critters and stuff that live inside of there, that it's going to kind of help balance things out and make it normal. But something off camera I did. I didn't film this or anything. I think I was really frustrated one day with this tank, and I was really on the verge of just breaking it down. And what I decided to do was cap this, but I went a little bit further than I normally would. I put about maybe 2 or 3 inches of sand cap on top of my ADA. So basically, this is sort of like a dirted tank, but with ADA instead of topsoil. The most expensive topsoil you can buy, I guess. I really did start to see a difference. It started to kind of come along. It went from a tank that I was definitely going to break down to one I was kind of watching more carefully. And if you look at my updates and stuff, you'll see where it kind of jumped, and suddenly there's a lot of substrate in it. Then when I broke down my 5-gallon just a few months ago, I broke down my 5-gallon and I brought this one in here. And I took the filter out of the back of the 5-gallon, that spec 5-gallon, and I put it in here because they're very similar. This is a Hydra 10-gallon tank, and you can still get them now. It's very much a kit tank in that the whole back of it has an area for a heater and an area for filtration and then a pump out area, and it's beveled too. So as the water level gets low, the water level doesn't necessarily go below where the heater is or below where the biological material inside of here is. So you can do a water change and it doesn't dry out any of those things. It's really, really smartly set up. And I've got a bigger version. Actually, my Hydra 25 gallon is just kind of the big version of this. And I have a small one too. I have a 3-gallon version of this, which is a little too small for me. Hey, a couple of quick product updates. I think I brought these up during one of those buy stuff for Aquarius for Christmas. I bought these lights. They replaced the Ashta 20 that I originally had on here. I replaced that because I wasn't sure if that was causing algae problems, but I gotta say, these little lights seem to have done really well. I'm really, really impressed for how cheap they were. I got these on Amazon. Another little product back here I have is a little holder that holds all of my different aquascaping tools and a little shrimp net and stuff like that. I believe I got that off 7 Port's website as well. The combination of that really nice seasoned filter from the Fluval Spec and the foam, what it is basically it was the foam and all the biological material in there. I just kind of took what was already in here, kind of mixed them all together, put them in shoved them in those little foam bricks, and I stuck that brick back in there, and it works great. Like it instantly improved. I've got virtually no algae. I get a little bit of algae here and there. Sometimes it grows on some of these little ornaments and stuff that I have in here. I added some kind of whimsical ornaments that sort of remind me of playground stuff, just these weird geometric shapes and stuff like that. And I like, aside from the little house, which all the Cory cats and the shrimp like to go in and out of a lot, and it's kind of fun to watch. I wanted to add something that didn't have something you could really perceive as anything in particular. I like just having these little squares and these little cog looking things and stuff. I think they're just kind of interesting shapes inside of there. And the shrimp and the Cory cats really love running around in here. Speaking of, what's inside of here are pygmy Cory cats, and I believe the species I have is Corydoras pygmaeus. They are the smallest and to me the cutest of the pygmy Corydoras. There's about 3 different types. Or 3 different types anyway that are commonly called pygmy Corydoras. I've got about 7 or 8 in here. I got them from Flips Aquatics. I was able to mail order them and they came in and are great. Normally I can get them in my local fish store, but I haven't seen them lately. So I went ahead and mail ordered them because I think Rob's awesome. I also ordered some shrimp for the 20-gallon that I keep saying that I'm going to talk about. That'll come up later. I've got some Neocaridina shrimp in here. These are orange shrimp that I've been raising in my flora downstairs. I've started to migrate them into a couple of other tanks, and this is another tank where I'm hoping to kind of start a nice healthy colony of shrimp. I have kind of a wide variety of plants in here. I'm not entirely certain which ones specifically they are. That kind of happens a lot with me because I'll buy all these plants, I'll plant them, and then they grow, and I kind of forget what they were. I have tons and tons of Anubis, all types of Anubis. Over the years, I've bought every species that's available. I've bought a lot of different species of Anubias, and to me, most of them kind of look the same. You get long leaves and kind of rounder leaves, but there's really a lot of different kinds, and I wish I kept up with which ones went where. These things they get planted in a similar way, then they kind of grow together, then they get trimmed, and they get pulled out and put into other places, and then it's just impossible to know. But every plant I have in here is from another tank somewhere else in the house. So over here on this side, I've got a little bit of dwarf sag. I've got the small leaf type of Anubias. I'm hoping it's like Anubias samurai, I think is what it's called. Mixed in here in all different parts are different types of buse that I've been trying to grow. I've been trying to grow buse in just about every type of aquarium I have. I love the different textures of those leaves. I haven't had a great deal of success. I really think that they're a plant that's meant to grow at the edge of the water, right on top of the water. Mixed in here, I've got a couple of different kinds of lace Java fern and I think another type of species of Java fern. In the back, it's actually a fairly large plant, and it's starting to get almost too big for that corner. It really takes up this entire corner over here, and it's looking kind of cool, and it's obviously doing a good job filtering the tank, so I'm leaving it as it is until it eventually starts to shade some stuff out. Then maybe I'll try to trim it up a little bit. This dwarf sag slowly making its way across the front. I'm probably going to have to start pulling it and trimming it out. It's already made its way all the way across the back, and it's gone all the way around this plant, and it's starting to head back across the very back of the tank. So that'll be interesting. That one I'm going to let grow. I don't want it to cover up the whole front here though. So it's been an interesting experience. This tank has gone through a lot of different stages, set up a little bit unconventionally, but I think it's kind of interesting. It's funny because that base that it has, those rocks and stuff at the very base, is almost kind of like making a lava rock plenum or something, because there's going to be lots of cavities and lots of spaces and empty spaces underneath there for good bacteria to grow. And you sort of have the dirted tank aspect where it's you got all the soil kind of sandwiched underneath a big layer of sand. It took a long time for the plants to root up enough to kind of get the roots all the way down in there. But like when this plant finally, and I could watch it to some degree, but when this plant finally started to get down into the dirt, it just exploded, and now it's sending plants everywhere. So it's definitely working really well. So this isn't a sponsored video either by Flips or 7 Ports. I bought this tank myself, but if you're interested, you can find this tank on 7 Ports website. It's not the cheapest of the kit tanks. In fact, it's more expensive probably than the Flex or any of the specs. But the way they set the filter up is definitely different. You're definitely getting a different product than you would, and also these don't come with the pumps or lids or anything like that. I made my own lid. I got a lid cut out of glass and got some like little lid holders to kind of fit around the side. If you're an open top guy, then you're all set. Personally, I like to close it off a little bit so I don't have to deal with so much evaporation. So that's why I try to cover all the little sections that I can. At some point, I'd like to custom make a back portion so it covers the back. For right now, I've just got these little things. These little things like you traditionally put on the back. I just kind of place them over the top of the back sections over here. And that's just to keep the evaporation down. I think it also kind of keeps dust and stuff from finding its way into the water column. So to me, having a lid would be a great improvement. If I had some advice for 7 Ports, it'd be figure out a way to put a lid on there. Thanks for tuning in for this short update. I'll be back soon with some more. I've got the 20-gallon, of course, to talk about. I keep saying I'm going to talk about it, but it's just not been exactly where I want it to be. And you guys know where that is, when it looks great. It's getting really close, though. It's so close. Speaking of looking great, I've just yesterday redone my fluval flora, and I believe it was started around this time of year, early, maybe February or March in 2019. So it might be time to do an update on that next. And of course I got the 210, both to redo, but I think I might redo the sump first. It's kind of a weird story, but I've been trimming a bunch of plants around the house, and I've ended up with a sump absolutely chock full of anubias. I'm not sure if I'm going to give them away or if I'm going to maybe sell them at a fish swap that's coming up next month. But I think one thing I really would like to do is start a planted tank inside the extra water column area that I have in the sump. And I want to set up, why not plant the sump? A planted sump, why not? It could work. So to see all that and more, be sure to subscribe, and you can do that right here. If you'd like to see the setup video, like the initial setup video for that, it's right here. If you'd like to see a really weird clone video with me like resetting this and kind of getting it ready for the beta, that's right there. I'll see you soon. Follow your bliss and keep a clean tank. Bye-bye.